Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to do this beautiful rustic background with a foam brush and a little palette scraper. Stay tuned. Hey guys, let's get started making some texture. I'm excited. I've got my board base in just a really dark gray. Let's take a moment and talk about the colors I've chosen. We use just an acrylic paint. If you notice my palette, I've got black and white. That's going to be like shade and highlight. This is the turquoise that I use, but I mixed it with a gray. And then this is my background, and then these are going to be my neutrals. This is so easy. You can choose any neutrals that you have. You can choose any darks and lights. You can make wood grain that's leans to the yellows and oranges. You can make wood grain that's just like pink if you want to. You can do any kind you want with this technique, so don't be afraid to change it up and do some stuff. But if you're looking for old wood, then you want a neutral palette. Okay, I'm going to talk about our applicator. This is a polyfoam brush, and you can see it's been used, and they just hold up like nobody's business. This is not a poly brush. Notice how floppy that is. I really, really need a brush that is not floppy. Brush, I guess it's a poly brush, but I need something that's going to hold its nose, if you will. And I also didn't sand my board because I want to have that little bit of grit inside when I'm painting, so it'll get so it will create drag. So I'm going to put that away. These are just this wood handle ends right there at the foam. This one actually goes about halfway in, and then they both have a plastic support inside, but definitely get a poly brush. Okay, we are going to get started. So what we're going to do is get some glasses. We're going to go into our lighter brown. So I'm just going to pick up some paint, and then I'll smush it over here. I don't want to base coat this. I just want to have an even coat in the tip of my brush, and then we're just going to drag, and you want to drag straight. Go back and forth, just letting the brush drag along the tip. This is a layers game. We are going to just layer colors until we like it. What I love about this is you can actually make mistakes. You're going to see me do something silly. I'll show you how to fix it, but you can just keep layering paint over paint until you love it. Okay, so you're not married to whatever you've just done. Okay, you do want these lines to be straight. I just kind of did a little thing there. And then sometimes, if you're not getting enough tension, turn your project around and pull it the other way. So now if I come here, it's catching better. And I can take that all the way to the tip. I'm using a layered piece today. So I've got little roof lines and stuff to make it just a three-dimensional. You can get this board just plain as well. This is on our website. So you can choose, but since I know I'm going to go all the way up to here, I want to make sure that I don't end my strokes and leave like dark spots that don't have texture up there. So I want to really make sure to go all the way to the end. Okay, so we're going to pick up more paint. I'm going to walk you through this whole thing. I'm going to show you how I get the lettering done. I'm going to cheat and use a stencil. We are a stencil company, but we are kind of focusing on this weathered wood today. And then I'm going to show you how, at the end, I'm going to show you how to do drop shadow with a stencil. It's such a cheater pro tip. It's amazing. You're going to love it. Drop shadow can be so intimidating because if you have to freehand it, you have to have really good brush skills. So when you can drop shadow through your stencil, it makes it easy. Okay, now we're going to pick up another color. We're going to go into black. And I'm just going to smush that down on my palette. Just gets a little kiss of black there. Back and forth. So that's a little base coating. Sometimes if your paint is still wet, it will grab the other color. So let me hit the blow dryer, and then I'll show you how to fix that. That is a tip to know about when you're trying to get a drag and then you hit a little wet thing. Water molecules are attracted to water molecules, and so they will stick together way better. And that's what happened here. All right. So now we will go backwards a step. Unlike our dome brushes, when we're using our dome brushes to stencil and stuff, you have to have a different brush for every color. With a technique like this, because it's so dirty on dirty doing the thing, it's just absolutely a layering paint thing, you can just go back and forth in your paints. So I'm gonna go backwards one step and go pick up a little bit of that first color. And then I just fixed it right there with just a couple little swoops. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a couple more. And now, because we know that water is attracted to water, we're gonna give it a dry. Doing these layers is an awful lot like putting makeup on your face if you have a blemish or something like that. The paint is your makeup, and you're just going to disguise whatever thing you're trying to disguise with, like these streaks is a really good example. Okay, we're gonna pick up some white. Actually, I think I'll go in this gray. There's really no rule. So I'm gonna pounce that around. And if you notice right here, when I'm doing this pouncing like this, you notice that right there on my palette, it's actually mixing and becoming a different color. So by mixing and dirty brushing, I'm going to get a blended family in a way. So everybody will get along and it won't be stark and contrasty and stuff like that. Look at our gray. So you won't even know what you're seeing when you're doing this. You'll be like, all the streaks will just blend. So see how the strong, I don't know if we can get a close-up of this, see how the brush isn't spending, bouncing, isn't spending a lot of time bending. I'm not pushing on this brush very hard. I'm just letting that tip do the tip thing. So I'm not liking these two right here, but I'm gonna fix those. I seem to be catching in that direction, so I'm gonna turn it around. Sometimes you just need to flip things around. So when we're painting these backgrounds like this, I feel like a mad scientist sometimes. It's just so fun to just take your brush and see what you can make it do. Okay, so I've got some splotches. That's perfectly fine. I like on our channel, which by the way, if you're not subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe. And then once you subscribe, there'll be a little bell there and you can do that and get notified when we have new content. But on our channel, we try to keep it really real. So I wanna show you how to make mistakes and then how to fix them. So I think that's a really important part of the learning process. So I'm gonna go backwards and then I'll do the makeup thing. Ooh, maybe make that a little stronger. So when I painted this, I did the same exact mistakes that are happening right here. So just like that, sometimes your brush just sets down and it just plunks. And that's not a problem. Okay, now we will dry it and then we'll do another layer. And we're actually almost there, believe it or not. That's so quick, isn't it? One brush. So now we need to do some makeup on the ones that we don't like. So we're gonna go back to that, that original gray. And I'll spend a moment plunking it around. Make sure I don't have too much. And then this is gonna be real light pressure. Okay, so I wanna just even Steven some things. So I'm putting the streaks back in the solid areas. Pick up a little bit more. If you have a little bit more paint on your brush, you know what I bet you has been going on is I betcha I'm getting my brush too empty because it's streaking super easy when I have freshly loaded and I'm not using any pressure. So I bet you money I'm pushing it and getting it too dry. So I think that's what's been going on here. Because that's doing way better with fresh paint. Okay. Sometimes when you have something that's very loose like this, you get back and you squint. And when you squint at it, it makes all the details kind of fuzz out, and then you can see big areas that you've forgotten or mistake areas, like this one's sticking out to me down here. So anytime you're doing something loose is a really good time to squint at it. If you don't want to squint, you can take a picture on your cell phone and then flip it upside down and look at it upside down, and that's another good way to see your mistakes. Okay, so how fast and easy was that? Now we're going to get into that turquoise. I'm going to plunk this in water. Okay, we've got our turquoise, and we're going to get a palette knife out. And in this case, it's really important to have an offset palette knife so that I don't run my hand through all the paint. Okay, so we're going to pick up some of our kind of mushroomy brown color and mix it in with our turquoise. Anytime you need something to become family member with whatever you're painting, give it a mix with something else on your palette. That's a really easy way to make your paints get along. Even if you have two kind of clashing ones, give them a mix. And in this case, I'm probably about 50-50. Turquoise can be a very loud color. All right. Just clean off the palette knife. I like to put it in the paper towel and just let it wipe off right there. Now we're going to take out another palette knife, and then you'll notice that this one, besides being very worn, this one is flat handle, okay? And why is that important? If I had a raised handle one, I wouldn't be able to do the technique I'm about to do. So what I want to do is I want to do this like drag effect. And so I'm going to be holding my brush. This is my brush right now. I'm going to be holding my brush really close to the edge so that just a little bit of the paint kind of trickles off. It's not going to be trickling, but it'll be grabbing and pulling, and then it'll create a really cool technique. So I'm going to go over here. If we can get in close right here, I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to lay that down on the paint, and then I'm going to have that on my brush, my palette knife. Okay? Make sure not too much. And then I'm going to come right on down here, lay it down, and let the palette knife do its work. Reload. If you have it too loaded, it'll be messy. And if you don't have enough, you won't see anything. Okay, so now we will wipe this off and put that away. And I've forgotten a thing. I've got to get this dry, so let me get to the blow dryer. All right. So this next step that I'm going to show you is one that you should do before you do this step. I forgot about my little wood slats that I have over here. I'm going to use a ginormous T-square. T-squares are fabulous for putting lines on things. We've got affiliate links down below, and we've also got links to our website. This is on our website, so that you can see all of the supplies that we used and everything. Okay, so we're going to lay this down, and we're going to get it teed to the edge of the straight edge of the building. And then you can do a couple of different things. I used a foam brush, okay, and I just picked up a little bit of black on the tip. And then you can just run it along. Oh, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of water with my black so it'll fade off. And then blot that. I don't want it wet and runny, but I do want it to release. And then we just corner that in there and then just let it make lines. So if I don't like the strength of that, I can go on there and just blot that. So you can control it as you go. You can also do the old finger rub and go down the line like that and just mute it out just a little bit. And then we're just going to somewhat evenly, not a big measurer, get some lines. Oops. Paint your T-square. No pressure, and that's not a no pressure, don't worry. It's a no pressure, don't push on your foam brush. If I push on it, it's gonna make a really fat line. So we'll just work our way across. Okay, I'll reload into a little bit of that black liquidy paint. Oop. Make sure you're straight. And then to get up here, that last one didn't show. Let's go back. It's a no-show. Still a no-show. You certainly know when your brush says, not doing it. Blot. And one more time. And see how strong that is. That's because it's a fresh load. Spend a little bit more time on there and then just wipe it back. Okay, and we can finish these by going this direction. Now I'm not square on that little bottom edge, so now I have to trust my line. Okay, and you've got to watch, you're gonna pick up on your T-square. If you don't move in one direction only, you're gonna pick up paint and smear it across. So make sure you're wiping this off and going in one direction. So I need to go, there we go. I'm gonna need to work backwards actually, so that I don't run across my lines. Okay, and I think I'm good. Wipe off your T-square. You don't want to collect a whole bunch of paint. Won't hurt anything, but it's just better to keep it clean. Okay, brush can go into the water bucket. Okay, now we're going to talk about how to put words on there. There's a lot of ways that you can do words. You can freehand them if you're good at that. You can trace them on. You can, people use vinyl clings. I'm not a fan of vinyl clings though, because they do peel off. But we're gonna use a stencil. Okay, so here we go. How to drop shadow using a stencil. So normally what we teach is that we do a light dusting on our stencil, like either on the corners so that we can see where it was. But since this is a very straight project, I thought maybe I could cheat and skip a step. So this is even on the bottom. Everything is laser cut, so it's all gonna have really good straight lines and edges. So what I'm going to do is I know I want my stencil to drop down about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, someplace in between there, and then move it over about 1/8 over to the side. So I usually drop shadow to the left side and the bottom. You can do it the right side and to the bottom if you want to, whichever way. You can drop shadow in colors too. You don't have to drop shadow just in dark colors. So you can do light colors and all of that. It's such a neat technique. So we're gonna drop this down and make sure it's even. And then we're gonna slide it over. Actually, you know what works really good for me? Is to get my tape ready. And if you guys are looking at the examples on the back wall, this fireplace stencil is one of our absolute best sellers. All of those are linked down below in the description. So what I do is I get my tape ready to go, and then I use my tape as my carrier. So it allows me to move and scooch without scraping the stencil and doing all kinds of weird stuff. Okay, and then we just tape down. 2 pieces of tape will prevent your stencil from shifting. Okay, so now the drop shadow is black. We're gonna get a dome brush. I always like to pretend like everybody doesn't know how to stencil. Got to use a dry brush, got to use dry paint. Don't use any of this liquidy paint with this brush because it will make a wash on your piece and it will not look good. We are not painting our cross today. If you wanted to paint your cross, you could, but we're going to avoid that. We're going to use these MultiMaskers, which is a tool that is specific to our website. And we just lay them near when we get near that, and we'll mask them on both sides. Okay, so we go in black. We have a flat folded paper towel, a dome brush. If you've ever had bleeding under before and you've been using a flat stenciling brush or a makeup applicator, or sometimes people use these. These are sponges and they're just gonna shove your paint underneath. They also glom a lot of paint, hard to control. The dome brush allows you to not push the paint under, and it allows you to swirl, which is a really cool technique that I'm gonna show you. And it makes painting much faster. Okay, so we're gonna 15 times swirl on our paper towel. Doesn't have to be 15, but it's just a good number. So where I'm gonna multi-mask, I'll just get that out of the way first. And I need just a little bit of a rounded thing. And so what we're gonna do is we're just going to, I'll stipple here just so I get good coverage and get into the main body of what I'm doing. Okay, so now I don't have any ghosting on where I'm going to put my cross. So that is just wonderful to not have the ghosting. Then we'll start swirling. So I'm using light pressure, and if you can, I don't even know if we can get a close-up of this, but if you notice my bristles are not shoving, okay? They're just dancing on the tippy tip of that dome. Really, really important. Okay, so just swirl. And because I'm swirling and I'm not using a lot of paint and I'm not using a lot of pressure, by the time I do this, it will all be dry and I can go right back over it and I don't have to spend time on the blow dryer. Okay, so just swirl away. And pick up paint as you see you're not making very good color. You're not getting color off of your brush. All right. And now, when I did this earlier, I forgot part of my stencil. So make sure that you're getting everything. I'm going to need my multi-maskers down here again. I blow dried that stencil to make sure that my stencil was dry, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this up and see I've got black. Then I'm going to lay it back down, tape it down. Be aware that if you tape on fresh paint, now we weren't being very wet painty, we were doing a lot of dry painting, but if you tape on wet or freshly cured paint, sometimes when you take that tape away, you can pull your paint off. So always make sure to hit the blow dryer before you start taping and adhering things to things. Okay, and now we'll go into our soft gray over here. I chose that soft gray so that it wasn't screaming at me. I don't want this to be like a really, really bright, bold color. So I go into my dry paint, dry it off. It's always the same. You always have to, every now and again, you'll lose little bristles and stuff like that. This is a brand new brush. That's very common. They glue these into the ferrule. So if you lose them and it's on your piece when you're painting, wait till it dries and brush them off then. If you ever lose a lot, just contact us and let us know. But that's been very rare with this brush. Does happen every now and again. All right, so now we're gonna do the fun part. We're gonna get that top layer on, just swirling. Notice how fast stencils, there's no weeding, there's no base coating and drying and brush control and all the things. It's so, so, so nice. And our stencils are reusable. They're actually even food safe if you ever wanted to paint a cookie or something. but you can use these hundreds of times. The only thing you never want to get do to a stencil is bend it. If you bend your stencil, I don't know how to recover that. So make sure you don't bend them. Okay, we're gonna get into our multi-maskers over here. So the neat thing about stencils being reusable is once you've made yourself a project, you can make one for somebody else, or you can share them with a friend. Like it's actually super cool that they are so durable. Now, I don't know if you're a peeker or not, but I'm a peeker. I'm gonna peek under this and see how I'm doing. Okay, and now you can always take your paper towels and reverse them. Use every square inch of that paper towel. Okay, I'm gonna peek. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, I need it a little bit stronger, so one more coat. Let me give that a blow dry. There we go. And so now, a little bit stronger. I'm getting in a little bit of a hurry. Maybe I don't have as much wiped off. I saw a little bit kind of push underneath. Once I start wanting to get over the finish line, I always speed up, and that means when you're in a hurry, things get rushed. That's when you push too hard on your brush, and that's when you don't wipe off as much on the paper towel. That's when mistakes happen. Happens to me all the time when I get in a hurry. No pressure on your brush. It's literally, and it's so much easier than this action. That action is terrible because it's like exhausting. Also, what's going on here too is when this brush is getting more and more paint, it's getting more and more paint up in there. If I push it all, I'm gonna get to that area that I haven't like wiped it out of there. So that's going to also affect how much pressure and how much paint gets applied. Okay, and then last little bit. It's right there on that. Do one more layer on there. See if we bled under on that. I think that looks okay. And brush in the water. Always get your brushes in the water. If dry paint doesn't come out of those brushes, so if you dry them, they're toast. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. The magic drop shadow with a stencil. Isn't that fabulous? All right, let's take our project over the finish line and get her done. We've got our roof line based. I didn't base this one so I could show you. They just come in little MDF pieces, and we will base that in our dark gray. Oops. Just set them down and slide that foam brush along there. And then in order to make it a little bit streaky, we'll pick up dirty brush and then just streak on some color. I'm turning my brush sideways. And on our cross, I did just a little bit of like the gray and spaced in this dark brown color. We really want it to look like an old rugged cross, so little streaks. There we go. Brush in the water. And then we're gonna attach the things with E6000. So what I did for that is I just took the back side. You wanna be careful with things that are painted. Yesterday I couldn't get this off. We had to use a multi-tool to get it apart. But you want to be careful. You don't want to base coat the back and the front of pieces because glue's like a little bit of raw wood to adhere to. So we'll just put a nice flat bead of E6S. And this stuff is stinky. So if it bugs you, get in a well-ventilated area. I can't say those words. Okay, there we go. We're just gonna stick it on there. Line it up on one corner, line it up on the other corner, and let her drop. And then I like to push on it to make sure it's all attached. Okay, awesome. This does not need to be sealed unless you're gonna be hanging it outside. If you hang it outside, you wanna give it a little bit of polyurethane or something like that. Paint actually has a little bit of a sealer in it, so it doesn't need to have a sealer on top unless you want to have a sealer on top or unless you need to protect it. So then we'll glue on our cross and glue on our top, and presto, we are done. Make sure that you like and subscribe. I guess it's not like, subscribe and ring that bell, and go check out our channel because we have so much content to show you. Great backgrounds, great techniques, and we really love sharing with you guys. Thanks.